the odyssey continues. I'm cleaning up some dust, and I'm also solving my height issue with the roof, at least the face of the buildings, by adding on some angles and some height, 3 inches, to the top of each of the peaks or the apexes of these roof gables. I had cut them with the original faces, the angles of the roof with the knife, and they didn't turn out very straight. So it's going to be an interesting task to marry these new pieces onto the old one, but it will give me the extra height that I wanted and that I had originally designed into the drawing, and it will fix the problem and add a little extra height over the roof line, which is what the intended design was. So here I am cutting out the new gable that's going to be added on top of the old one. So there you go. Boop. I will have to find a way to fill in any gaps because of my bad cutting the first time. But no worries. Everything is fixable, especially right now because everything's going to be covered up. All the joints are going to be hidden by either the second layer of plywood, the 1/16 that I'm going to be putting on the interior, and the exterior facing, which is going to be stone bricks. So there you go. But I'm not being particularly precise on any of this. I mean, I don't have any reason to be too worried about perfectly straight lines and everything for the exterior. The interior, I'm going to be more meticulous, but right now I'm just trying to build the shell, which is going to be very rough, but all of the little squiggles and, you know, crooked cuts and all that is going to be covered up by trim and all other such things. So I know I say this a lot over and over again, but I'm just trying to emphasize that you don't have to do things perfectly to get them done and get them done in a visually appealing way, because all of this structure is going to be hidden underneath all of the stuff that is going to make the house beautiful. So nobody will know how things can be cobbled together. And in my case, it is cobbled together because I'm not a carpenter. I'm just doing the best I can. And I am happy for my little table saw. It's not a high quality, micro mark tool that I pay, hundreds of dollars for. It's a $50 tool from Harbor Freight with an upgraded blade. And I broke off the little safety jig that was on there. There was a little plastic thing, but the blade was cutting the plastic thing and making pieces of plastic fling around, so I just took it off. So now what I'm doing is I'm cutting the side pieces for the front door face bump out, and that will I'm doing that out of the wood first, and then we'll do that in poster board. But these have to be 19 inches high. And zip. Mind you, I am being very careful with this blade. Don't do as I do. Apply safety precautions, wear PPE, all those things. I don't want to, be a bad influence on crafters and on other crafters and tell them to dangerously use a table saw with a blade that's exposed like that. But I take my own risks. I don't want to encourage anyone else to do the same. So right now I've created the 2 side pieces for the entranceway bump out. I am now cutting the same pieces in the foam. And boop, there you go. cut, clip, clip, clip. I always take these opportunities when I'm building to listen to my favorite podcasts. Sometimes they are true crime, sometimes they're AXP, sometimes they are, let's see now, Talk Heathen, or they are anthologies of different fiction. If I find good fiction on podcasts, I will listen to it. Also on Audible. I have a couple of books on Audible. Okay, so now I am making the face for the right side of the house. And there's going to be another bump out on that side, and I'm going to have to cut that piece out. But each one of these faces is 30 inches high. So this is going to be a very dramatic dollhouse. They're very tall with like Gothic peaks. And but in this one, I'm just doing the full face right now, the wall basically. And then it will have another bay window bump out coming out of that too. So right now I'm just building the 30-inch face. I need to do 2 of these, and for each side, even though both of those sides are going to either have bay windows or a bump out. So yeah, I'm making sure that's nice and glued down. So measure here. Okay, so yeah, I'm just transferring measurements from the drawing onto the poster board. All right, I'm marking the center, and this is the opening for the bump out that is going to dominate the front. I mean, basically the face of this side of the house. It's going to add a little more square footage to the area where I am going to do the entranceway and the kitchen, although I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I'm thinking of maybe even hinging something on there so it can open up, give access to a space. So now what I'm doing is I'm cutting the pieces of wood to sandwich the foam board, and I'm doing the 2 sides first. You can see how bad the cuts are there, but don't worry, it'll all even out in the end. I think what I'm trying to convey to most people who do this sort of thing, who want to do this sort of thing, and who are daunted by the idea of building a dollhouse from scratch or crafting something like this, that you don't have to have everything you need to do it, like, you know, all the specific tools and all that. And you don't have to have like major precision or meticulousness. You can still create something beautiful and do it with something less than perfect underneath. Okay, now I'm attaching the side pieces onto the front door face of the house. Now that they're dry, there's one side, and then the other. Yeah, I get really upset about people who are kind of gatekeeping this kind of fabrication and crafting, because they make it sound like if you don't do it right, that you shouldn't do it at all. You know, I don't believe that. And there are people who make beautiful things, like Norm Abrams level kind of carpentry, building dollhouses, and, you know, with perfect tools and routing that's like, you know, perfection, and in major hardwoods. But you know what? You can still make something really gorgeous out of less expensive options and do it imperfectly, and that's fine. Look at me here. I'm using glue, and I'm going to fill this in with sawdust. I don't even need to do this. This is just, you know, because it's going to get covered up by stone anyway, but, you know, just for me. But yeah, there you go. Imperfection. Isn't it gorgeous? Just put some sawdust on there. Fill in those little gaps. Nobody's ever going to see this anyway, but nobody's going to see those rough edges. Just do it.